Hey, I'm Sophia. Before we start, go grab a snack and get comfortable for a bit. These stories take their time, and they are told the way I'd tell a friend late at night. I really hope you enjoy them. This story has one update on it and my own opinion at the end. Comment and tell me if you agree. Let's begin. After my family disowned me, I found a new family who actually appreciates my success. My mother's hands were flat on the restaurant table, like she needed the pressure to keep herself steady, and my dad wouldn't look at me at all, just stared at the condensation sliding down his water glass as if it was more respectable company. The booth smelled like grilled onions and lemon cleaner. I could hear forks clinking and a kid whining 2 tables over, and I kept thinking, wildly, that this was the exact kind of normal Tuesday night people have before their whole life detonates. My brother Rami sat beside them with his arms crossed, jaw working like he was chewing on anger. I had my purse on my lap, both hands gripping the strap, so hard my knuckles hurt. "Say it again," I said, because I honestly thought I'd misheard the sentence the first time. My mom's voice came out thin, not even loud, but it landed like a slap. "If you walk out of this family," she said, "don't come back." My dad finally spoke, quiet and heavy. "You chose this," he said. "So now you're on your own." The waitress appeared with our plates, smiling like she didn't feel the air vibrating. I swallowed so hard it scratched. "I'm not walking out," I said. "I'm asking you to stop punishing me for living." My brother let out a short laugh and shook his head like I was embarrassing. "You're delusional," he muttered. My mom pushed a small envelope across the table. "Your key," she said. I stared at it, my old house key, the one that still had a faded pink ribbon from year 12, sitting between the salt shaker and my dad's napkin like it was evidence. My throat burned. "So that's it," I whispered. "You're disowning me because I won't quit my job and marry who you picked." My dad's eyes flicked up for half a second, hard and cold. "Don't call it that," he said. "You're not a victim. You're stubborn." It started long before that restaurant, but that was the moment my body finally caught up to what my brain had been trying to deny for years. My family didn't love me as I was, they loved me as an idea they could control. I'm 28, the oldest daughter of parents who came here with nothing but pride and fear stitched into everything they did. In our house, love was food and rides and reminders and rules. Love was I worry, which became I decide. I was supposed to be the successful one, but only the kind of success that made them look good and stayed inside their boundaries. Study something respectable. Work somewhere safe. Marry someone approved. Have kids quickly. Smile at the right relatives. Don't talk back. Don't make noise. My brother Rami could drift, change paths, find himself, and it was called potential. If I wanted anything outside their script, it was called selfish. The specific fight that night was about 2 things that were really one thing. I'd been promoted into a leadership role at a tech company I loved, and I'd moved in with my boyfriend, Theo. Theo is kind, steady, annoyingly competent, and not from our community, which to my parents might as well have meant he wasn't from Earth. We'd been together for 3 years. I didn't hide him. I didn't sneak around. I tried to do it right. I invited my parents to meet him. My dad refused. My mom came once, sat stiff and polite, and later said, "He's nice, but he's not for you." Like she was choosing paint. When I told them I'd signed a lease with Theo, my mom cried like I'd died. My dad said, "You're throwing away your reputation." Rami said, "You think you're better than everyone." It was all so dramatic for something so ordinary, 2 adults moving in together, that I started to question my own sanity. I remember standing in my childhood bedroom, the one with the chipped dresser, and hearing my mom say, "If you do this, you're not my daughter." She said it like a threat. I think she expected me to crumble, to apologize, to crawl back into the version of myself that stayed quiet to keep the peace. In the restaurant, I didn't crumble. I surprised myself. I pushed the envelope back toward her with one finger. My voice was shaking but clear. "If you're making me choose between my life and your approval," I said, "I'm choosing my life." My mom's eyes flashed, wounded and furious at once. "So you choose a man over your family?" she said loudly enough that the table behind us went quiet for a second. My cheeks burned. I'm choosing myself, I said. He's just not asking me to shrink. My dad finally looked at me fully, and there was something almost relieved in his expression, like he was glad to stop pretending.
Then go, he said.
Go and see how long you last. I stood up. My legs felt like they didn't belong to me. I threw some cash on the table because the waitress was still hovering awkwardly, and I didn't want her punished for our mess. My mom's mouth tightened. My brother muttered, "Drama queen," like he was narrating. I walked out into the cold air with my chest tight and my eyes dry. It wasn't until I sat in my car and tried to start it that my hands finally started to shake hard enough that I couldn't fit the key in the ignition. I put my forehead on the steering wheel and took these shallow, ugly breaths like my lungs had forgotten how to work. The next week was a blur of grief disguised as logistics. My dad blocked me. My mom sent one message: "Don't contact us. You chose." Rami posted a family photo with the caption, "Blood over everything," and cropped me out like I'd never existed. My aunt texted me, "Your mother is sick with worry," which was code for "get back in line." I went to work and smiled in meetings, and then went to the bathroom and stared at my face in the mirror like I was trying to recognize myself in this new reality. Theo tried to help in small ways, making tea, leaving a blanket on the couch, asking if I'd eaten. But I could tell he didn't know where to put his anger. He'd say, "This is insane," and I'd nod because it was, but it was also my normal. The worst part wasn't even losing my parents' calls. It was losing the sense of being anchored. Even when they were suffocating, they were familiar. Suddenly, there was this empty space where family obligations used to be, and it made me feel light in a terrifying way, like I could float off if I wasn't careful. There were nights I'd wake up at 3 a.m. convinced I'd made a horrible mistake, that I should just apologize and go home and fix everything. Then I'd remember my dad's eyes in that booth, cold, certain, and I'd feel something else underneath the grief, a small, stubborn relief. Then something unexpected happened. My new family started forming around the edges of my life without me even noticing. It began with my coworker Nia, who is the kind of woman who hears one sentence and immediately understands the whole shape of your pain. We were in the office kitchen, and she noticed I wasn't wearing my usual earrings. "You okay?" she asked. I shrugged, because I was tired of crying in front of people. She didn't accept the shrug. She said, "No, like, are you safe?" Something about that wording cracked me. I told her quietly, "My family cut me off." She didn't gasp or offer cliché comfort. She just said, "Okay, come over Friday. We're doing dinner." I tried to decline. She looked at me like I was silly. "I'm not inviting you," she said. "I'm telling you." Friday came, and I went to her apartment with a bottle of wine I couldn't afford and my stomach in knots. Her place smelled like garlic and toasted bread. There were people there, her partner, 2 friends, someone's cousin, laughing and talking over each other. No one asked me to explain myself. They just made room on the couch and handed me a plate. At some point, Nia's partner asked what my favorite comfort food was. I said, "Lentil soup," and felt this weird twist of sadness because my mom makes the best lentil soup. Nia nodded and said, "Cool. We're making it next time." Like my grief was a recipe they could hold for me until I was strong enough. A month later, my boss nominated me for an internal leadership award. I didn't even want it at first because it felt like one more spotlight I couldn't handle. Then the day of the ceremony arrived, and Theo came, and Nia came, and 2 of my teammates came, and Nia's partner came with a ridiculous handmade sign that said, "Sana did that," in neat block letters. I laughed so hard, I almost cried. When they called my name, I walked up to the stage with my knees shaking. The room clapped, warm and steady. And as I held the award and looked out at the crowd, I had this sudden, sharp thought. My parents should be here. It hit like a bruise. Then I looked at Nia standing up and clapping like she'd known me forever, and the thought shifted. Someone is here. Someone chose to show up. Here's the part that still makes my stomach twist. 3 weeks after that award ceremony, my mom found out. Not for me. I hadn't posted it, but from a cousin who saw a photo online. My mum called from a private number because of course she did. I stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. Then it rang again. I answered on the third ring because my heart is stupid. Her voice was tight. "So you're on stage now," she said, and I could hear the jealousy disguised as concern. "Mum," I said carefully, "why are you calling?" Silence. Then softer. "We heard you're doing well." I waited. My hands were sweating. Theo was in the kitchen, pretending not to listen. My mum cleared her throat. "Your father is not happy," she said. A laugh escaped me, harsh. "He disowned me," I said. "Of course he's not happy." She said, "Don't speak like that. He's still your father." "And I'm still your daughter," I replied, and my voice shook. "But you didn't speak to me for months." She exhaled sharply. "You humiliated us," she said. That sentence made something go very quiet inside me. "You disowned me in a restaurant," I said. "You gave me my key back like I was nothing. And you're saying I humiliated you because I got an award?" My mum's voice rose. "You want everyone to clap for you. You want everyone to say you're so brave. But you broke this family." I felt my throat tighten. And right then, I realized she wasn't calling because she missed me. She was calling because my success was happening without her permission. I said, "I didn't break the family. I just stopped letting you run my life." She hung up. That was the moment I understood that being disowned wasn't a single event. It was a long, ongoing attempt to punish me until I returned to the script. And that's where I'm going to pause the story midway like you asked, because this was the point where I had to decide if I would keep chasing my old family's approval, or if I'd finally accept the new family that was already choosing me. My parents are not cartoon monsters, but they are absolutely the kind of people who confuse control with love. They think fear is wisdom. They think shame is discipline. My dad weaponizes silence and authority. If he doesn't approve, he simply erases you and expects you to crawl back. My mom is the sharper one emotionally. She knows exactly which words will make you doubt yourself. She cries, then criticizes, then calls it worry. And my brother Rami? He's the worst flavor of loyal. Not loyal to people, loyal to hierarchy. He'll defend my parents' behavior because it keeps him in the good son position, and he'll mock me because it's safer than admitting I had the courage to do what he never will. Choose myself. Theo and Nia, on the other hand, are the kind of people who show love in ways my family never practiced. Theo doesn't demand obedience. He doesn't treat my life like a reflection of his ego. Nia didn't ask for my backstory before she fed me dinner. She just treated my loneliness like something that deserved warmth. That's the difference. My old family wants credit for who I am, but they don't want to do the work of actually seeing me. My new family doesn't need credit. They just show up. And honestly, the most satisfying part isn't even proving anything to my parents. It's realizing I'm not as unlovable as my family's conditional love made me feel. I'm not difficult. I'm not selfish for wanting autonomy. I'm just not controllable. And that's what they hate. Update. So I posted the first part of this because I was spiraling after my mom's phone call. A lot of people said, block them, and I get why. But it's complicated when the people who hurt you are also the people who taught you how to tie your shoes and made you birthday cakes and stayed up late to help with homework. I'm not defending them. I'm explaining why my nervous system still reacts like they hold a remote control. Anyway, here's what happened after. A few days after my mom hung up, my Aunt Salma showed up at my work building. Not in the lobby casually like she had a mission. Security called me and said, "There's a woman here insisting she's family." My stomach dropped. I went down because the last thing I needed was a scene at my job. Salma stood there in a long coat, clutching her handbag like it was armor. She kissed my cheek quickly, like she was doing a duty, then pulled back and scanned my face. "You look thin," she said immediately.
"Ai fine," he replied.
She sighed like I was exhausting. "Your mother is suffering," she said. "You can't do this to her." I felt something hot rise behind my eyes. "I didn't do anything to her," I said. She stopped talking to me. Salma's lips tightened. You know what you did, she said. You moved in with him. You embarrassed your father. Now, everyone talks. Let them talk, I said, and my voice surprised me with its steadiness. I'm not living my life for the gossip committee. Salma looked genuinely offended.
Listen to you, she snapped.
So arrogant now because you have a job with a title. It's not arrogance, I said. It's independence. She leaned closer. Your father says if you come home, if you apologize, he will forgive you. That word, forgive. Like I'd committed a crime. I looked at her and asked, forgive me for what? Salma blinked, like she hadn't expected the question. For disrespect, she said vaguely. For living with someone I love? I pressed. For working hard? For not listening, she said sharply, finally honest. For thinking you can do whatever you want. I exhaled slowly. I can, I said. I'm an adult. Salma's face hardened. Then don't cry when you're alone, she said, and she turned and walked out of the building like she delivered a prophecy. I went back upstairs and sat at my desk, staring at my monitor, without seeing the words. My chest felt tight, like there was a band around my ribs. Nia noticed immediately. She didn't ask what's wrong, like it was casual. She stood beside my chair and said quietly, walk with me. We went outside. The air was sharp. She handed me her coffee, like she decided I needed it more. I told her what happened, and the moment I said, my dad will forgive me, my voice cracked in this ugly way that embarrassed me. Nia didn't flinch. She said, I hate to say this, but your dad doesn't want you back. He wants control back. That sentence sat in my bones for days. Then, out of nowhere, my brother Rami emailed me. Not texted. Emailed, like he was writing to a landlord. The subject line was family. He wrote, Dad's blood pressure is high. Mum cries every day. You need to stop being stubborn. Come to dinner Sunday. We can talk like adults.
I stared at it for a long time.
My first instinct was guilt, immediate, automatic. The second instinct, newer but stronger, was anger. Because talk like adults from Rami meant come get scolded while we pretend we're being reasonable. Theo found me sitting on the couch with the email open, frozen. He sat beside me and said, softly, what do you want to do? I realized I didn't know. Part of me wanted to go just to end the tension. Another part of me pictured that restaurant booth and the key envelope and felt sick. So I said, if I go, it has to be on my terms. We agreed on boundaries like we were planning a negotiation. I would meet in a public place. Theo would come with me but stay nearby, not at the table because my family would use his presence as an excuse to focus on him instead of their behavior. I would not apologize for my life choices. If they started yelling or insulting, I would leave.
No debate.
Sunday came. I met them at a cafe near my parents' house. I walked in alone and saw them already seated. Mom, Dad, Rami. My dad's posture was rigid, like he was holding himself up with anger. My mom looked tired. Rami looked smug, like this was his event. I sat down. My hands were cold.
Hi, I said.
My mom reached out as if to touch my hand, then stopped, like she wasn't sure she had the right anymore. Hi, Abibti, she whispered. My dad didn't say hi. He said immediately, are you done? I blinked. Done with what? He leaned forward. This, he said, gesturing vaguely. This rebellion. Rami snorted. You got your little freedom moment. Now come back. My heart started pounding. I forced my voice steady. I didn't come here to be mocked, I said. If you want to talk, talk. If you want to insult me, I'll leave. My dad's eyes narrowed. You're threatening your father now? No, I said. I'm setting a boundary. Rami rolled his eyes dramatically. Therapy words, he muttered. My mom's voice shook. We miss you, she said, and for a second my chest softened. Then she added, but you have to fix this. I asked quietly, how? My dad said, you apologize. You move out. You end that relationship. You come home, and we forget this happened. The cafe noise faded around me. I heard the espresso machine hiss. I smelled burnt coffee. My throat tightened. So you don't miss me? I said slowly. You miss the version of me that obeys. My dad's face flushed. Don't twist words, he snapped. I'm not twisting anything, I replied, and my voice trembled. You disowned me. You cut me off. And now you're acting like I'm the problem, because I didn't crawl back. Rami leaned forward, eyes sharp. You always make everything dramatic. Dad is willing to take you back. Be grateful. That take you back hit me like a punch. I looked at my mother. Do you think this is love? I asked. Because it feels like a deal. My mum's eyes filled. We're protecting you, she whispered. From what? I asked. From being happy? My dad slammed his hand on the table hard enough that cups rattled. Enough, he snapped. People glanced over. You think you're so successful now, he said through clenched teeth. You think you don't need us. I took a breath. I need a family, I said. But I don't need to be controlled. There was a long silence. My mum cried quietly into her napkin. Rami stared at me like he hated me. My dad's jaw worked like he was swallowing poison. And then I did something that felt both terrifying and clean. I stood up. I'm not apologizing for living, I said quietly. If you want me in your life, it has to be as I am, not as you can control. If that's not acceptable, then this is goodbye. My mum looked up, tears streaking. Don't go, she whispered. My dad said coldly, go. So I went. Theo was waiting outside, pretending to scroll his phone. The moment he saw my face, he opened his arms. I walked into him and felt my whole body shake with the release of it. We got in the car, and for 10 minutes I couldn't speak. Theo didn't push. He just drove, one hand on the wheel, the other resting gently on my knee like an anchor. That night, Nia invited me over again. I expected a small dinner. I walked in and found her whole crew there, plus her auntie who apparently takes feed people as a personal mission. They didn't ask me to recount everything. They just handed me a bowl of lentil soup, actual lentil soup, rich and warm, and Nia said, eat. Then tell us what you need. I sat on her couch with soup in my hands, surrounded by people who weren't obligated to love me but did anyway, and something inside me settled. I realized I could grieve my birth family without abandoning myself to them. Okay, now I'll continue and finish the story. A month passed, then 2. The messages from relatives slowed, then stopped, because gossip gets bored when you don't perform for it. My dad didn't reach out. My mum sent one brief text on my birthday. Happy birthday. We love you. No apology, no acknowledgement, just that sentence like a bandage placed over a wound that was still open. I didn't respond right away. I stared at it for an hour. Then I replied, thank you. I love you too. I'm here when you're ready to talk with respect. She left me on read. In the meantime, life kept happening. I got a bigger promotion at work, one I'd worked for quietly for years. My team threw me a surprise celebration. Theo took me out and toasted me like I was the most obvious thing in the world to be proud of. Nia hugged me and said, look at you, like she'd been waiting for me to see myself. Then, at Christmas, Nia's family invited me. Theo's family invited me too, but I wasn't ready for that level of new. I went to Nia's. There were kids running around, aunties arguing about spices, someone's uncle trying to fix a broken chair, music playing too loud. It was chaotic and alive and imperfect and safe. At one point, Nia's aunt pressed a plate into my hands and said, eat, baby. And the way she said baby, like it was natural, like it belonged to me, made my eyes sting. Later that night, when everyone was cleaning up, Nia sat beside me on the balcony with 2 mugs of tea. Do you miss them? She asked gently. I looked out at the streetlights and said, I miss what I wanted them to be. She nodded. That's real, she said. And that was the final lesson, I think. Being disowned didn't mean I failed at family. It meant my family failed at love without control. And finding a new family didn't erase the grief. It just proved the grief wasn't because I was unworthy of love. It was because I'd been trying to earn love from people who treated it like currency. My parents might never come around. My brother might always resent me. But I'm not waiting in that restaurant booth anymore, holding my breath for permission. I'm building a life where love doesn't come with a key envelope and conditions. My dad is the kind of man who treats authority like oxygen. If he doesn't feel in control, he panics and calls it respect. He disowned me because he couldn't handle the idea that I might build a life that doesn't orbit him. The cruelest part is how cleanly he did it. No messy tears, just cold certainty, like he was deleting a file. That's not parenting. That's ownership. My mom is harder to pin down because she's both victim and accomplice. She genuinely feels pain, but she also uses pain to manipulate. She cries, then demands I fix it, as if my job is to manage her emotions forever. She wants me close, but only in a shape that doesn't challenge her worldview. Rami is, frankly, exhausting. He's not even the main villain. He's the sidekick who thinks cruelty is a personality. He benefits from the family hierarchy, so he protects it like a guard dog. He calls boundaries therapy words because he's terrified of anything that would require him to examine his own choices. He wants me back only because my absence forces him to see how much emotional labor I used to absorb. Theo is the opposite of my birth family's love. He doesn't need me to perform loyalty. He just shows up. And Nia is the kind of friend who quietly changes your entire nervous system. She didn't rescue me with speeches. She rescued me with dinner, with presence, with normalizing the idea that love can be steady and uncomplicated. If my parents deserve anything, it's a hard reality check and some serious humility, because disowning your child to control her is like burning down your own house to prove you own the matches. And if I deserve anything, it's credit for not crawling back just to stop the discomfort. It would have been so easy to apologize for things I'm not sorry for, just to get my family back. But what's the point of belonging if you have to amputate yourself to fit? The funniest, saddest irony is that my success didn't make my parents proud. It made them threatened, because it proved I wasn't dependent. That's why my new family matters so much. They're not impressed by my achievements as trophies. They're happy for me because they actually like me. And once you experience that kind of love that doesn't demand you shrink, going back to conditional love feels like trying to breathe through a straw on purpose.